10 things you must eliminate from your life to find inner peace. Stoicism. How do you handle the weight that life throws at you every single day? Do you carry it all? Do you fight against it? Or do you learn to let go? Carrying everything that comes your way is the fastest path to exhaustion. It's a painful reality, but there are those who understand the profound liberation of elimination, those who've mastered the ancient art of removing what no longer serves them. This silent release, this intentional unburdening, can transform every aspect of your existence, whether in relationships, in your daily habits, or within your own mind. Today we'll explore 10 powerful things drawn from Stoic wisdom that you must eliminate from your life. Not with drama, not with announcement, but in complete silence. These aren't superficial changes, they're life-altering decisions from the great Stoic philosophers whose teachings liberated minds for centuries. But there's more. I invite you to actively engage in this journey of radical simplification and personal liberation. So in these next important moments, focus deeply on what's being shared, setting aside distractions and resistance. Let's begin. Number 1. Eliminate the fear of others' opinions. Have you ever stopped to count how many decisions you've made based purely on what others might think? That suffocating fear that keeps you playing small, that prevents you from showing your true self. It's like living on a stage under constant judgment from an audience that isn't even watching. You know why most people are too busy dealing with their own insecurities to spend time judging you, yet you remain paralyzed. The fear of judgment is a silent parasite that feeds on your dreams, that whispers in your ear every time you consider something bold. What will they say? And suddenly you shift direction. You adapt your life to what you believe others expect. What an irony. We spend so much time worrying about opinions that we stop living the life we actually want. This fear pushes us to please people who often aren't even part of our real lives, as if our compass were broken. Instead of following our true north, we follow society's south. You wear the mask that fits each moment's expectations at work, with friends, even on social media. But where is the real you, the one hidden beneath layers of fake smiles and borrowed opinions? Sometimes this fear is even more subtle. It disguises itself as prudence. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe I'm not good enough. Excuses masked as wisdom that hide the same monster. The terror of others' judgment, and meanwhile, dreams get filed away, waiting for a better moment that never arrives to eliminate this fear. Once and for all, we must practice Stoic philosophy. The Stoics teach us something fundamental. We cannot control what others think, but we absolutely control how we respond. It seems simple, but it requires constant practice of introspection and courage. It's about learning to live for yourself, to make decisions that fulfill you, not just to please others. Life is too short to be lived in the shadow of others' opinions. A powerful exercise is to start eliminating silently things that don't bring value, things that exist only to please others. Do you feel obligated to maintain a certain image? Did you choose a career that doesn't satisfy you because it seemed like the right choice? Free yourself from these chains. Start with small decisions. Say no to commitments you don't want. Do something you've always wanted but feared because of judgment. Each small action becomes a step toward freedom. I won't lie, it won't be easy. There will be days when the weight of judgment feels crushing, but in those moments, remember, every time you choose to live according to others' expectations, you lose a piece of who you really are. It's a slow, silent death that you can avoid if you have the courage to be true to yourself. So start eliminating these things silently. You don't need to announce it. Just let go of what isn't yours, what doesn't belong to your essence. Learn to trust your own judgment and to value what you think of yourself more than what others might think. Because at the end of the day, the only person you owe explanations to is yourself. As Carl Jung said, freedom begins the moment you stop worrying about what others think of you. Number 2, remove toxic relationships from your life. There's a phrase, I love. There's no worse blind person than the one who doesn't want to see. I'm sure you've heard it curiously. We often apply this. Selective blindness to our own relationships. We get used to dealing with people who somehow take more than they give. Yes, I'm talking about those toxic relationships that without you noticing drain your energy little by little. And what's most curious, many times you cling to them as if they were indispensable. I'm not just referring to romantic relationships. Toxic relationships can be anywhere, in family, in friend groups, at work. And the most interesting thing is that nobody forces you to maintain them. But there you are, tolerating silently as if letting go were an affront to the world. Why do we do this? Perhaps because we were taught that breaking bonds is a sign of weakness or insensitivity, as if eliminating someone from your life were an act of cruelty, when in reality it may be the greatest gesture of self-love you can perform. Let's bring some philosophy into this conversation. The Stoics teach us that we shouldn't worry about what we cannot control. This also applies to people around us. You can't control how others act, but you can control whether you want to keep them in your life. It's simple, but here's the hard part. Doing it in silence, and don't misunderstand me. It's not about silent revenge or feeling superior. It's simply a conscious decision to no longer feed a relationship that wears you down. Think about it. You don't need drama to eliminate what doesn't serve you. It's not necessary to announce to everyone that you're detoxifying from certain people. Just let go. It's like stopping watering a plant that no longer blooms. You do it calmly, knowing it's no longer part of your garden, and that's okay. The plant goes its way, you go yours, and life continues. Have you ever spent time with someone, even someone close, and left that interaction completely exhausted? It's not that the person is bad, but their energy doesn't match yours. That's where the key lies. Detecting these relationships. Listen to your body, your mind. If you feel that each interaction with a certain person is an emotional marathon, maybe you're in a toxic relationship. It can be painful to admit, but it's necessary. Here comes the strategy of silence. Gradually reduce interactions. Stop seeking contact. Distance yourself. No big gestures needed, no fights. Just stop being available. It's liberating, believe me. Not because you're turning your back on the world, but because you're prioritizing your well-being. Sometimes self-love isn't saying no out loud, but saying enough in silence. So, how do you identify these relationships? It's simple. If every time you see a message from that person, you feel a knot in your stomach. If going out with them leaves you more exhausted than an entire week of work. If you notice it's always you who gives and never receives you. Already have your answer when that becomes clear. Begin the elimination process without drama, without unnecessary explanations. Just move forward. It's not about being cruel or holding grudges. It's about respecting yourself enough not to allow them to continue draining the energy you could use with people and activities that truly nourish you. In the end, the key is being honest with yourself and placing your well-being above guilt or fear of hurting others. Keep this clear, my friend. Some people are like the wind. You feel them but can't hold on to them. You just need to let them pass. Number 3, stop destructive habits. Sometimes you catch yourself doing small things that, if you look closely, you know aren't taking you anywhere. They're those actions that seem harmless at first, but without noticing wear down your mental or physical peace. I've fallen into this trap 2 more times than I'd like to admit. Small, self-destructive habits that go unnoticed, like a constant drip that over time wears down even rock. But what happens if those habits are the rocks of our daily life? How do you eliminate them without making a scene? First, you need to recognize them, and that's the trick. It's not easy. Pointing out what bothers us in others is one thing, but identifying it in ourselves is different. You wake up in the morning and without thinking, you grab your phone, not for anything important, of course, but out of pure habit, as if your finger were programmed to swipe the screen before your brain has even awakened. Seems harmless, right? until you realize you've lost 20 minutes of your morning immersed in nothing, with your mind already saturated before even leaving bed. That's just one example. We do this with so many other things. That extra coffee. That wasn't necessary, that conversation. You knew you shouldn't have had that series that adds nothing to you, but you keep watching out of inertia. These are the small things that over time can create a big hole in your well-being. Now, eliminating these habits is another story. Let's be honest, how many times have you promised to leave something behind and ended up doing it even more? Like when you say, starting tomorrow, I'll really begin. And then tomorrow comes, and it's just another day of excuses. That's where a lesson from the Stoics comes in. These philosophers of ancient Rome believed that great transformations don't happen all at once, but in small, silent steps, almost imperceptible. You don't need to shout to the world that you're going to change or make a grand gesture. Just start observing. The key is in awareness. When you notice your hand going for the phone without reason, stop. You don't need to throw the phone out the window, though that might be cathartic. Just set it aside and do something else. Something as simple as taking a deep breath and stretching. When you feel the urge for a third cup of coffee, ask yourself, do I really need this, or is it just habit? If it's just inertia, leave the cup aside. Sometimes it's as simple as that, stopping at the right moment without drama, without monumental changes needed. Eliminating self-destructive habits doesn't mean you'll become a perfect person overnight. We all have our small internal battles, and that's okay. The question is, approaching them with a simple strategy, silence and consistency, like a drop that instead of wearing down, slowly polishes. And if someday you feel you're not progressing, remember this. What seems like a small effort today, over time transforms into a great victory. Maybe you won't notice the results immediately, but it's like planting a seed one day. Without you noticing, it grows and becomes a tree. The same happens with these small adjustments. So next time you identify a habit that hurts you more than helps you, eliminate it silently. You don't need to announce it or make a big show. Just let it go step by step, drop by drop. As Epictetus said, true change doesn't announce itself. It simply happens. Number 4, release the need to control everything. Have you ever felt that if you don't have absolute control over everything around you, the world will fall apart? Don't worry, I understand. We like to believe that if we organize every detail to the millimeter and prevent all surprises, life will be like a perfectly tuned machine where nothing can go wrong. What an absurd idea, right? But still we find ourselves trapped in this mental game, convinced we can master everything that happens to us. It's a trap. A mirage. And the worst part, the more we try to grip control, the more we feel we're losing balance. So I ask you, how about letting go of this obsessive need for control? You know, that urge to have everything exactly as you imagined. The desire to control everything is nothing more than a mental prison. When we build brick by brick, every time we believe that with enough effort, things will turn out exactly as planned. But you know what happens? The universe doesn't work that way. Stoic philosophy, with its ancient wisdom that remains so relevant, teaches us that the key isn't controlling what we cannot, but letting go of the unnecessary and focusing on what truly depends on us. Think about it. We try to control the weather, others' opinions, people's reactions, the results of our efforts, all things that actually aren't in our hands. It's like trying to hold back the tide with your hands, a complete waste of energy. Yet we do it constantly. And worst of all, every time something doesn't go as expected, we get frustrated, we get irritated, as if it were a cosmic injustice. What irony, right? Imagine you're carrying a backpack. Every time you try to control something outside your reach, you put a rock inside it. At first, maybe you don't even feel the weight, but over time the backpack becomes unbearably heavy. In the end, this load crushes you. Wouldn't it be better to get rid of these rocks, to open space for what really matters, for what you can actually control: your emotions, your actions, your choices? The rest, let go for a long time. I myself worried obsessively about predicting everything that could go wrong in my life. If I had a meeting, I'd plan every possible uncomfortable question. If I scheduled an outing with friends, I'd worry about the place, the weather, anything that could deviate from the plan it was. Exhausting. And you know what happened? Most of the things I worried about never happened in the end. I realized that this attempt to predict everything didn't give me more control. It just gave me more anxiety. So I started letting go little by little. I learned to trust more in the process, and what happened, things kept happening, some good, others not so much. But I felt lighter because I had stopped carrying what wasn't my responsibility. Trusting in life doesn't mean being passive or irresponsible. It's about accepting with maturity that there are things outside our hands. And that's okay. Eliminate silently this need to control everything. Make space for the unexpected, for surprises, for what's beyond your reach. This doesn't mean you should just settle and watch life pass by. It's about releasing the weight and accepting that there's a part of the path that doesn't depend on you. And you know what else? It's liberating. Remember, sometimes letting go is the most powerful form of taking control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, true control lies in the capacity to let go of the uncontrollable. Number 5, lower your unrealistic expectations. I don't know about you, but I spent a good part of my life believing I needed to be perfect. Nobody told me this directly, but it was in the air, hanging between well-intentioned comments, approving looks, and that constant silent comparison with others. I grew up with the firm conviction that meeting others' expectations, and worse still my own, was synonymous with success. What a great lie. If you stop to think, trying to fulfill unrealistic expectations is like trying to fill a bottomless well with a leaky bucket you never finish. You're always exhausted, and in the end, all that's left is a sad puddle of frustration at your feet. The most curious thing, many of these expectations aren't even ours. They were built by others, family, friends, society, and we accepted them because in the quest to be better, we decided we needed to fulfill them. Do a quick exercise. How many times have you felt disappointed for not achieving something you didn't even want exactly? We impose goals so high that if we fail, we feel worthless. If I'm not the best at work, the perfect partner, the ideal friend, the exemplary child, what's left of me in the end? These expectations end up weighing more than our own actions. It's like running a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. You advance more slowly, you tire faster, and even if you reach the end, you feel you did it, dragging your feet. What's the point? This is where Stoic philosophy comes in with a brilliant insight. According to the Stoics, you can't control what others think of you, nor guarantee the universe will act in your favor. What you can control is how you react to it. The key then is to reduce the load lower, those expectations that suffocate you if you expect less of yourself and of others. It doesn't mean you're settling. It means you're liberating yourself. You're no longer trapped in the constant pressure to correspond to the impossible. You're simply existing and moving forward. Of course, this magic doesn't happen overnight. I'm not saying throw all your expectations out the window at once. Think of it like cleaning out a closet full of old clothes. First, look at what doesn't fit anymore, what you never really liked, and let go, one piece at a time. Sometimes you hesitate to let go of a shirt because you think you'll use it someday, but deep down you know you won't. With expectations, it's the same start. Eliminating those that don't belong to you. Then review your own and ask yourself, are they realistic? You don't need to keep them all. Something that can help reduce expectations without creating drama is changing how you talk to yourself. For example, instead of saying, I need to do everything perfectly, try, I'll do the best I can with what I have now. It seems simple, but it's liberating. You open space for error, which is human, and for the possibility of improving without constant pressure. Another foolproof trick: avoid telling everyone your plans. The less noise you make, the fewer expectations others create about what you should achieve. After all, external expectations are just that, noise. Eliminate silently what doesn't serve you. You'll notice things begin to flow much more naturally. Letting go of expectations isn't giving up. It's an act of wisdom. Instead of focusing on what you should do or concentrate on what you really want and what's under your control. Less expectations, more freedom. Engrave this in your mind, my friend. The less you expect, the lighter you become. Number 6, stop needing to always be right. Have you noticed there's an almost obsessive urge to always be right, to be the person who knows everything? It's as if every conversation were a battlefield, and victory meant proving you're right, a silent battle but relentless. The worst part, this war isn't with others, but with yourself. Every time you insist on having the last word, it's as if you need to convince yourself that your value depends on it. Doesn't it get tiring? Because, honestly, I'm exhausted from this endless race. We were taught to believe we need to always have the right answer, as if being wrong was synonymous with weakness. Society, social media, even family gatherings reinforce the idea that failing is failing. But I'll tell you a secret, sometimes being right is the least important thing in life. Stoic philosophy teaches us to accept what we cannot control, and you know what you can't control: others. Perception of you, this endless battle to prove you know everything, leads nowhere. It just makes you more anxious, more frustrated, and at the end of the day, more alone. Ask yourself, what do I gain from always being right? An invisible medal. Doesn't seem worth the effort, does it? It's like carrying a suitcase full of unnecessary rocks with each argument or imposed opinion. You put another rock in there until the weight becomes unbearable, and you wonder, why am I so exhausted? The answer is simple. You're wearing yourself down for something that has no real value. Next time you feel that urge to prove you're right, try staying silent, not out of resignation, but out of liberation. It's like releasing a pen you've been holding for hours. Without realizing, when you let go, you feel a relief you didn't know you needed, with the need to always be right. The same thing happens when you release that burden. You realize you were trapped in a war you didn't even want to fight. So how do you let go of this need? Accept you don't need to know everything. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay not to have a formed opinion about everything. You're not competing in a wisdom contest. Learn to truly listen, not to refute, but to understand. There's a huge difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is a biological function. Listening is an art when you listen with attention. The anxiety to go or impose your point of view disappears. Appreciate silence. Sometimes the best argument is simply allowing others to have the last word. Not all conversations need a winner, because in the end, winning an argument isn't the same as having peace. Is it worth always being right at the expense of your tranquility? Not at all. Next time you're in a conversation and feel that urge to correct or impose your opinion, take a deep breath, release the pen, let it go. The peace you'll feel will be infinitely more valuable than any momentary victory, if it's any consolation. Remember the Stoics, they knew true wisdom isn't in being right, but in knowing when to let go. As Seneca said, true knowledge isn't in winning all battles, but in knowing when not to fight. Number 7, eliminate digital noise. Have you noticed how you're surrounded by digital noise? I'm not talking about cars in the street or the neighbor drilling the wall, but that other noise, the one in your pocket, in your hands, in your eyes. Social media, endless notifications, messages that don't stop coming. It seems everything is designed to distract you, to keep you in a constant state of alert. And there you are, thinking you have control, when in reality it's digital chaos that controls you. The reality is, we live in an era where silence is a luxury, but that luxury isn't as unattainable as it seems. The first step is understanding what's really stealing your attention, because actually there are things you should eliminate silently from your life. And yes, it's possible, just not as obvious. I'll be honest, digital chaos doesn't disappear just because you close an app. That would be like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. What you need is to be radical. Like the Stoics, who knew inner peace was what really mattered, and they didn't achieve it by letting themselves be carried away by external distractions. So what should you eliminate silently from your life? Let's go first, social media. Yes, I know it seems cliché, but believe me, the more accounts you follow, the more noise you create. I'm not saying to disconnect completely, but think, do you really need to know what your friend's cousin is doing? Eliminate mercilessly everything that doesn't add value. And if you can do a digital cleanup from time to time, like organizing a closet, take out what no longer fits, what should never have been there in the first place. Second, notifications. Here's where it gets interesting. Why do you allow your phone to interrupt you every 2 minutes? Every time it vibrates or makes a sound, your brain jumps. This doesn't just steal your time, but also your mental energy. Turn off all non-essential notifications. At first, you might feel some anxiety, as if you're missing something. But later, when you realize how good it is to have control over when and how you check your phone, you'll thank me. Third, the fear of missing out. The great modern villain. We live with the feeling that if we're not connected, we'll miss something important. But here's an uncomfortable truth. What really matters isn't on the screen. It's around you, in people, in moments that pass unnoticed while you're stuck on the latest viral meme. Eliminate that fear. Release the need to be in everything, because the more you try to embrace the digital world, the more you lose what's really worthwhile. Once you get rid of this unnecessary noise, something magical happens. You start to hear what really matters. Digital silence is the first step to reconnect with yourself, with your ideas, with your true priorities. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in. You can't control what happens outside you, but you can decide how. You react to it. When you eliminate digital noise, everything else becomes clearer. My advice is this: choose silence, not as an absence of noise, but as a conscious presence of what you really want in your life. Because in the end, that's the true luxury of our era. As Gandhi said, peace doesn't come when noise fades, but when you decide to listen to yourself. Number 8, remove negative thought patterns. Have you stopped to notice how negative thoughts enter your mind almost without making noise, like someone who doesn't want anything? They appear and suddenly they're in command of everything. They're like those neighbors who arrive without warning, and worse, don't leave. The most frustrating thing, many times you hand them the key, not because you want to, but because they've convinced you their presence is inevitable, a part of your daily life. But what if I told you you can change the locks? Let's talk clearly. These thoughts are nothing more than destructive patterns that end up shaping your actions. And not in the best way, for sure. You've caught yourself thinking things like, why does everything go wrong for me? Or I'll never make it. And of course, when these thoughts repeat again and again, you end up believing them. And what you believe, you end up acting on. It's like planting a poison tree and then wondering why the fruits aren't edible. The curious thing is, these negative thoughts don't necessarily reflect reality, but they feel as real as the ground you walk on. This is where Stoic philosophy enters with its brutal simplicity. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. It sounds so simple, but in practice, it's something we often miss. We allow these mental patterns to dictate our emotions and actions, when true freedom lies in taking the reins of our responses. And where do you start? The first key is silence. Yes, you read that. Right? Eliminate silently these negative thoughts. You don't need to make a spectacle trying to push them away. Just start recognizing when they appear. Identify them and don't feed them. The more attention you give them, the more power they have. Think of it like a fly in the room. If you obsess over catching it, you'll only agitate it more. How about ignoring it until it tires of flying? Second, question your thoughts. When a destructive thought appears, ask yourself, is this true? Is everything really going wrong, or is it just an exaggerated perception? Many times you'll realize they're inflated ideas with no real basis. And if there's some truth, you can start thinking about solutions instead of staying trapped in the problem. Third, detachment. I'm not saying you should become a monk on a mountaintop, but start taking emotional distance from your thoughts. They aren't you. Just because something passes through your head doesn't mean it needs to stay there. This requires practice, but little by little you'll learn to see them for what they really are. Clouds in a sky that remains firm. Negative thoughts are one of those small things you should eliminate silently from your life. They don't need fanfare, just careful focus, patience and internal questioning, because at the end of the day, what you think shapes what you do, and what you do defines who you are. As Brian Tracy well said, thoughts aren't facts, but if you believe them, they become your reality. Number 9. Clear physical and mental clutter. Sometimes it happens that we wake up and feel the world is a little heavier than normal. You look around and realize it's not just a feeling. Your space is loaded with things, objects, piles of papers, clothes thrown on the chair, and somehow your head also seems like a disorganized drawer. I don't know if this happens to you, but when my surroundings are a mess, I feel my mind follows the same path. Physical and mental clutter, though it may not seem so, are more connected than we'd like to admit. There's something deeply exhausting about the clutter around us. Our disorganized space directly affects our mental clarity. The Stoics, for example, talked about the importance of focusing on the essential, of eliminating the superfluous. And if you think about it, clutter is exactly the opposite. It's everything unnecessary that distracts us and takes us away from what matters. The accumulation of things doesn't just occupy physical space, but also consumes energy. Each object out of place, each paper that should have been thrown away months ago, each thing blocking your path. All of this isn't just accumulated material, it's noise, a noise that fills the mind with small pending tasks and worries. You didn't even know you had. You know that feeling of wanting to organize something, but not even knowing where to start. That's the secret. It's not about organizing everything at once, but eliminating silently what no longer serves. The first step is simple. Observe, look around and ask yourself, do I really need all this? If you haven't used something in a long time, you probably don't need it anymore. But it's not just about material things. Mental clutter works the same way. Sometimes we accumulate thoughts, worries and feelings, like someone who keeps broken objects thinking they'll be useful. Someday the truth is, keeping all this just weighs us down. So what to do? Eliminate silently, little by little. You don't need to make a big spectacle of it or announce to the world. Just let go of what no longer serves, both physically and mentally. Sometimes silence is an act of rebellion in a world full of noise. If there are people in your life who cause you discomfort, projects that no longer motivate you, thoughts that only drain you, get rid of them without drama, without explanations, without going in circles more than necessary. Just let them go. The exterior reflects the interior. Remember that often external order reflects internal order. If you start bringing a little clarity to your surroundings, you'll see that little by little, that clarity will also reach your mind. It's not magic, it's a process. It's like when you decide to clean a drawer and suddenly feel lighter, because in the end, each thing in its place is one less worry. Each object you release is a step toward a lighter, clearer life. The Stoics didn't complicate their lives with the unnecessary. They knew the key was to focus on what really mattered and let the rest pass by. As simple as that, living in a world full of physical and mental clutter is like walking in a maze with no exit. But when you start getting rid of what you don't need, you discover the exit was always there. You just couldn't see it because of the excess. If you want mental peace, start organizing what's around you. Do it unhurried, without noise, but consistently. Your mind will thank you. As Nelson Mandela said, when noise fades, the essential becomes clearer. Number 10, stop unnecessary comparisons. Sometimes I wonder why you have this habit of comparing yourself to others. Come on, don't make excuses, we all do it. But tell me, do you really think it serves any purpose? It's like running in a race where others don't even know they're participating, and worst of all, they probably don't even care. Meanwhile, there you are in your head, measuring every step, every stumble, every small advance, but not yours, others. Comparing yourself is like trying to win a singing contest. Using someone else's voice, it makes no sense. You have your own melody, your own rhythm, but you insist on following someone else's score. The problem is this seemingly harmless habit slowly undermines your self-esteem. You wake up one day feeling you're not good enough, not fast enough, not enough at something all, because you're too busy looking sideways instead of focusing on what's in front of you. The truth is, life isn't a speed race, it's more like a boat crossing. You choose the direction, the stops and the pace. But if you're too focused on the boats passing you, what you achieve is only to steer your own rudder off course. The most curious thing while you watch someone else's boat, they're probably doing the same with you. That's how this absurd comparison works. Everyone looks at others, but nobody enjoys their own journey. Stop comparing yourself and do it silently. Eliminate this practice as one of the things you remove from life without making noise. It's like getting rid of an old shirt you don't wear anymore. Nobody needs to know, but you'll feel the difference. Comparing yourself to others isn't just useless. It's a betrayal against yourself. It's like telling your inner self, it's not enough that you need to be someone else to be worth something. But think about it. This philosophy makes no sense. The Stoics already said the only valid comparison is with who you were yesterday. So what to do? When comparison starts, don't try to silence the voice question it. When you notice that inner voice starts comparing, listen to what it says, but question its logic. Why are you comparing yourself to that person? What exactly makes you feel inferior? Remember what you've already achieved. Take a pause and reflect on your own progress and achievements. Often we forget how far we've come when we're constantly looking at others. Another strategy that works is practicing gratitude. Yes, I know it seems like beaten advice, but I guarantee it's powerful. Be grateful for what you have, for what you've achieved, for who you are. When you focus on what you have, instead of what's missing or what others possess, something shifts. Suddenly the weight of comparison starts to disappear, and you realize the only path that matters is yours. Life is too short to waste time competing in an imaginary race with others. Comparing yourself only distracts you from what really matters, living your life at your pace, with your own rules. And when you start doing this, you realize how liberating it is. My friend, I'll leave you with a reflection that helped me a lot. In the most difficult moments, when you stop seeing yourself through others' eyes, you discover who you really are. Conclusion. We've explored 10 powerful things you must eliminate from your life. Not with drama, not with announcements, but in complete silence. These aren't quick fixes. They're profound transformations. They're life-altering decisions that compound over time. The Stoics didn't seek peace by adding more. They found it by eliminating what didn't serve them. That's the secret. Don't chase tranquility. Remove what blocks it. The rest takes care of itself. Start with one thing, master it completely, then move to another. Over months and years, these practices become who you are, not what you do. And when that happens, peace flows naturally. You feel lighter, you sense your freedom, you recognize your power, all without saying a word. This is the liberation of silent elimination, of intentional simplification, of Stoic wisdom. Now I want to express my deep gratitude for watching this video and exploring these principles with me. If these insights resonated with you, if you felt inspired, if you found value here, please share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know which thing you'll eliminate first. And as a keyword to show you've watched until the end, write in the comments, I choose freedom through elimination. Let's create a wave of people committed to intentional living, to silent strength, to Stoic wisdom. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay intentional, stay free.